Do you have enough dough? No, we're not talking about money. Actual bread may actually be killing you. Does this sound too dark? Well, unfortunately, it can be true if you are eating certain types of bread. What do scientific studies really show about bread? What do the medical experts say? And what is the specific type of bread that doctors are now claiming you must avoid for the good of your heart health, your weight management, and your blood sugar control? Let's find out. The worst bread in the world. So, why does this mystery bread's link with diabetes mean that eating it too often may shorten your lifespan? We'll explain all the ways that one specific and extremely popular variety of bread can damage your health later in this video. First, we should get a few things straight. For starters, not all bread is strictly bad for you. In fact, choosing the right type of bread and eating it in moderation can supply some surprisingly powerful benefits for your body. For instance, take 100% whole grain breads. Whole grain slices typically supply 75 calories, 1 gram of fat, and 4 grams of protein. That's a good thing for your blood sugar because protein not only helps to build muscle mass, which aids your insulin sensitivity, it also helps to slow your post-meal digestion. Protein can work to decrease your hunger and keep you from overeating in between meals. But a major selling point for whole grain breads can be found right there in its name. Whole grains give you the entirety of each grain kernel, including the endosperm, or the carb-heavy main portion of the kernel, the germ, essentially the embryo or core of the kernel, which contains healthy fats and a variety of antioxidants, and the bran, or the fiber-rich outer layer of the kernel. The dietary fiber you get from the bran helps to slow your body's breakdown of the carbohydrates it gets from the endosperm. Plus, whole grains also supply other pro-heart health, anti-diabetes micronutrients, including copper, iron, magnesium, zinc, plus a variety of B vitamins and other antioxidants. There are more controversial bread options, where studies show both rewards and risks in consuming them regularly. For example, enriched and fortified breads can supply beneficial vitamins and other nutrients, but they also do not contain much fiber or protein. And rye bread, multigrain bread, oat bread, and sourdough have all been shown to provide positive heart health and diabetes management benefits when consumed in moderation. But why is there one specific form of bread, known and loved all across the world, which has doctors and nutritionists shouting from the rooftops, "Avoid this at all costs"? The answer is about to be revealed, but real quick, we'd appreciate you hitting that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to Diabetes Smarts to keep up with our content, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on bread, so please comment below. Okay, let's take a look at that bread that you should probably leave on the store shelf. White bread. You probably figured out that we'd be talking about white bread. That's because it's already pretty well known that doctors and nutritionists have quite the beef with this type of bread. But do you know why? As it turns out, it isn't because of what is inside white bread, but what is not inside white bread. Your typical prepackaged, mass-produced slices of white bread are highly refined. Refined breads do not include the bran or the germ of the grains. They keep only the carbohydrate and calorie-dense endosperm. So this process strips away most, if not all, of the beneficial elements of the grains, while giving you mostly just starchy carbohydrates. Therefore, choosing processed grain products means you will be missing out on those heart-helping, diabetes-fighting antioxidants. And without that glucose-stabilizing fiber content, these carbohydrates will be quickly broken down and absorbed into your bloodstream. Actually, white breads contain about 25% less protein and a severely diminished quantity of at least 17 key nutrients compared to whole grain breads. And to make matters worse, white bread is positively loaded with carbohydrates. In fact, eating just 2 slices of white bread can come at a steep price: 2 grams of fat, 160 calories, and 30 grams of carbohydrates. That's a main reason why white bread has an extremely high glycemic index rating. It scores between 90 and 100, basically the highest rating a food can get. But that's not a good thing. It's also very high on the glycemic load scale, which many nutritionists believe is a better judge of how damaging a food can be to your blood sugar. This means that white bread is one of the foods that will most quickly and sharply skyrocket your blood sugar, even if you only consume a small portion. And of course, consistent blood sugar spikes can lead to heightened insulin resistance and extra insulin in your bloodstream. This not only increases your risk of developing type 2 diabetes, it also increases your risk of heart disease, obesity, and a shortened lifespan. Another issue with foods that cause blood sugar spikes is that they will inevitably cause a blood sugar crash. That's why eating a white bread sandwich may feel energizing for a short period of time, but it can also make you feel hungry a short time later. Fluctuations in your energy and hunger levels can cause you to overeat at your next meal, or binge on unhealthy snack foods in between meals. So even after consuming 2 slices of white bread, with all of its calories, fat, and sugar content, you may still feel unsatisfied and hungry for more. That is why regularly eating white bread can directly contribute to increased weight gain, because it may accidentally cause you to eat other foods. Another huge issue with white bread is its ability to cause inflammation. But how does that happen exactly? And why can that lead to arterial damage and blood sugar dysregulation? As it turns out, our bodies are not well suited towards processing foods made with refined flour. According to endocrinologist and diabetes specialist Dr. Carla St. Andre, refined carbohydrates are essentially toxic to our bodies and trigger inflammatory pathways through a number of direct and indirect ways. Chronically elevated levels of sugar in your bloodstream activates pro-inflammatory pathways, as does longer-term increases in insulin resistance and weight. In turn, that can lead to more inflammation. That's because adding on extra pounds also increases your number of fat cells, which means your body will require more insulin, which will lead to more pro-inflammatory responses in your body. These added fat cells also secrete extra hormones and other pro-inflammatory substances into your bloodstream. So, regularly eating fiber-free carbohydrates is linked to fat gain, which is linked to heightened insulin resistance and chronic inflammation. It's a vicious cycle. Unfortunately, chronic inflammation can lead to a long list of other diabetes-related issues, including hypertension or high blood pressure, certain forms of cancer, liver disease, kidney disease, Alzheimer's disease, and yes, heart disease. In fact, cardiologists consider inflammation to be one of the key contributors to several cardiovascular issues, including arterial plaque formation and endothelial dysfunction, or damage to the lining of blood vessels. Chronic inflammation has also been shown to increase the risk of rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. How can you tell if you are eating too many pro-inflammatory foods? And what are the common signs that your body is in a pro-inflammatory state? Well, watch out for chronic fatigue, extended periods of joint or muscle pain, sleep problems, anxiety, and intestinal issues like constipation, acid reflux, or diarrhea. But when it comes to store-sold white bread, there's more bad news. Food corporations often fill their brand name white bread products with added sugars, along with potentially harmful preservative agents like calcium propionate and sodium stearoyl lactylate. While the FDA approves these chemical additions in food, and they are generally considered to be safe, some studies have suggested that they can cause certain unpleasant side effects like stomach pain and bloating. They may also lead to altered gut flora composition, and that can lead to increased inflammation. To add insult to injury, for your gut at least, many white bread products also contain lectins, a type of protein which is used to protect crops from insects. When eaten in large amounts, lectins can irritate and inflame your gut wall, and lectins may also disrupt nutrient absorption, which can create an imbalance in your gut flora. In fact, research suggests that due to their high amounts of lectins and gluten, refined grain products like white bread can increase your intestinal permeability. Some refer to this condition as leaky gut syndrome. Whatever it's called, you don't want it. While your intestines are supposed to let water and nutrients pass through your gut barrier and into your bloodstream, increased intestinal permeability can allow for potentially toxic larger molecules, chemicals, and microbes to leak into your bloodstream. Increased intestinal permeability is associated with conditions like inflammatory bowel diseases, irritable bowel syndrome, and celiac disease. But wait, there's more. Some white breads can also contain artery-clogging trans fats. In fact, many brand name white breads have been manufactured with high fructose corn syrup, which is linked to increased LDL cholesterol, triglycerides, weight gain, and an increased risk of developing diabetes. So that brings us to the question: what does the latest scientific research show regarding white bread? Multiple studies have concluded that higher consumption of refined grains, especially from white bread, is associated with an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. The Framingham Offspring study found that maintaining a diet high in refined carbohydrates like white bread will increase your risk of obesity, while other studies, including the multi-ethnic study of atherosclerosis, show that regularly eating white bread can increase your risk of coronary artery disease. Plus, a wealth of studies have also found that eating too much white bread can do plenty of other damage to your body. For instance, a study in the journal Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity concluded that regularly eating refined carbohydrate foods, like white bread, can increase oxidative stress levels, thus speeding the aging process and raising the risk of age-related diseases. The journal Nutrients showed that regularly consuming refined carbohydrates can contribute to the degradation of collagen, thus leading to those early aging signs like wrinkles, fine lines, and sagging skin. A Journal of Hepatology study noted that eating large quantities of food that are low in fiber, like white bread, may also lead to the increase of liver fat. And an American Journal of Clinical Nutrition study showed that maintaining a high glycemic index diet can lead to the development of fatty liver disease. And naturally, multiple studies have demonstrated that eating white bread can lead to a significantly higher post-meal glucose response than whole grain bread. However, this is still not the end of the story, because regularly eating whole grains can be a whole different story. In fact, a study published in the journal Circulation showed that a higher whole grain intake was associated with a lower risk of developing cardiovascular disease. Therefore, it's plain to see, ditch that highly refined white bread, and for your next sandwich, make it natural with 100% whole grain slices.